Hey guys, so the topic we're gonna see now is JavaScript. So this is where the coding part comes, I guess. Unlike other videos from HTML, CSS, we are actually gonna do some coding. Mm, so who's this course for? I'll say it is for absolute beginners. For others, it might not make much difference since you might already know all these stuff and usually people confuse Java with JavaScript. So this is the disclaimer: Java is not JavaScript. So we are gonna see JavaScript now. mm, and actually there is few standard versions: ES5, 6, 7, 8, 9 next, I guess. So it keeps on evolving, making things a bit easier for the developer. So what we'll do is we'll get into basics and we'll see how it evolves from ES5 to 6 maybe, and in later videos we might have something for other versions as well. So without any further ado, let's get started. Well, what is JavaScript exactly? I'll say it is client-side programming language, but then I'll be outdated. The reason is because back in 2010, people didn't even consider to use JavaScript in back-end programming. So it was only used in front-end client-side programming language levels. But what happened was things took a drastic change. Node.js emerged, and there were huge competitors, PHP and Ruby on Rails, all those being the server-side programming language. Nowadays, usually developers and clients lean more towards Node.js. So that's something that changed in 10 years. Um, okay, so enough with the chit chat. Let's right away get into the programming. Before that, what is actually front end, back end? We might not have seen this before, so I'll just get in some quick slide or something, because usually we don't do slides. Yeah, client server website. So what exactly happens is, I guess someone will be having a flow diagram. Yeah, there's a guy. Usually you type some domain name, and what happens is a request gets sent to the server and it finds the domain for you, and it returns the web page, and it is the response from the server. So this is what request and response, and this is what usually front end developers and back end developers they configure, so that you finally get to see the web page. So this is the whole process. Mm, okay, so now coming to the coding part, what we'll do is we'll just create something called a JS folder, and we'll add something like main.js. Usually people name it to their interest. Some name it as app.js. It's completely up to you. Just like we linked the style file, what we have to do is I'll just take this HTML file for reference, and I'll just hide it a bit. Yeah, just like you linked this file, you need to add the script tag, and you have to add the JS file. So once you add that, we can load this in a live server. And what I'll do is, to show that it is added normally, I'll just give an alert saying that I loaded successfully. Yeah, so now you should be seeing this. So this denotes that this file is currently active. What we'll do is we'll just comment this out. So instead of writing here, I'll just write it right away in the HTML file itself. So usually you are supposed to write in the app.js file. Now just for viewing purpose, we'll write it here. I'll just put a script tag, and if you do the same thing, script loaded, yeah, you should be seeing this. Actually, few of you might have a question, where did this function come from? So none of us wrote this. So this is coming from a property called window. So window has many properties to it. We can use any of it. That is where the alert comes from. So the same response happens. So I'll just open up the console for you. Yeah. So now once you see the window property, it has all these properties which we could use. So this comes under the prototypes. What we'll do is we'll just mark which are the topics we are gonna see through this video. The first thing is going to be types. So what are the types of variables maybe? Then we'll see something called DOM manipulation. Actually, what we'll do is we'll take this to last, because that's the least important part. The next thing is loops. And since JavaScript is object-oriented programming language, of course we are gonna see what is object. Okay, I missed J. And what is array and all those types. And we'll also see something like yeah, that's it, I guess. Yeah, maybe something like ES5 to ES6 conversions. And also we might add something like class methods. Yeah. So I think that should take around 1 hour. So I'll just try to wrap it in 40 minutes, maybe at most. I'll just comment this out. So coming to the first thing, we'll just name it as A, and we'll give it a value. So now once we do this, we can see this value using console log A. So this is also a property. Once I do that, you will be able to see this value. For some reasons, we don't use var right now. Instead of that, let is preferred. So I'll tell the reasons when we go in depth on ES6, ES7 changeovers. So now you could see that the value loaded exactly the same way. So this is not preferred. Next thing is const. It means constant. So for constant, let's just give some value like 3. Yeah, of course we are gonna see something called 3. What we'll do is we'll try to assign another value to a constant value. Of course, you know what is going to happen. It is going to throw an error. The reason is because a constant cannot be changed. So don't try to change it. That's it, I guess. Next, what actually there is something called different types of just like we have elements, we can assign different values to this variables. So the first thing is going to be string. For instance, I'll use let name is equal to Suren. There is a property called type of. If I'm going to console log this, you will be seeing it as string. Yeah, and there is also number. I'll mark it as age 25. Yeah, so now once you console log the age, you should be seeing it as number. What happens if I wrap it around a quote? It turns into a string, because the reason is anything that comes in between quotes is going to be string. So for number you don't want to do this, you want to do this. So now it is a number. Now let's do something like educated. Yeah, we can assign it something called boolean. So boolean usually is true or false, so that shows up here. We can also have something like arrays. Array is usually a list of elements, like I'll put down my hobbies. This is what an array is. My hobbies are like chess, yeah, drawing. Yeah, now what happens is now this is of course going to throw an error. The reason is because you didn't wrap it in quotes. Actually, literally I didn't, so I'm just trying to tell what happened. It is actually searching for a variable called chess. We don't have anything like that, so we are supposed to wrap it inside quotes so that it takes the literal value instead of searching for a variable. So the now error should have gone. Once you console log the type of it, it is going to show it as object. There is also something called JSON. So this is how JSON looks like. What I'll do is I'll remove all these let, and I'll simply copy all those and I'll paste it here, and I'll just give it into a comma separated values. Yeah, that's it. You should be seeing the whole property. Invalid shorthand. Okay, so what happened? Well, it is okay. So we are supposed to use colon here. So that's how JSON works. It is usually key value pairs. Now it should have gone. So when I try to console log the person, it is also shown as an object. So a JSON could hold anything, like it can hold a string, number, boolean, array, or even another JSON. For instance, I'm going to give address, and I'll mark it as JSON object with the street name TS1, city Chennai, of course. Okay, there is supposed to be a comma. Now it should be all right. So we can have something like a JSON within a JSON. Also, we could have something like functions. Say for instance, I have a function called full name, and as you see this, I'm using small letter at beginning and capital letter at the next word. This is called as camel case. So it is something like a naming value, or the case how they use. Like some people prefer using underscore. Some people usually go for say what just normally they write stuff, or some people use camel case. It's completely up to you. So I'll just make it into a function which returns the full name. So we'll see a bit of concatenation right now. So I'm going to return something to that function. It is going to be the name that we have right here. So this is a keyword used to denote this self. So I could use this dot name, and I could concatenate a space in between. Say for instance I have something like initial. I could mark it as k. So I could just concatenate this name and initial. All I have to do is I could add another plus and this dot initial. So that's it, I guess. So now we have a function here. So we have constructed a whole JSON object. So how are we supposed to use this? It's as simple as writing it person dot full name. Since it is a function, I'm going to execute it, and you should be seeing Suren space k. Yeah, that's how it works. Also, you could have something like person dot name. So you could access the properties or even the arrays. Now you will be seeing both the values. If you want to get just a single value, you could use this bracket and denote its position. So if I'm going to give one, everyone will be expecting chess, but drawing will be visible. The reason is in arrays usually it starts from 0. So chess is position 0 and drawing is position 1. So that's the reason we are seeing drawing. Also, since we have another JSON inside a JSON, what we could do is we could console log that as well. Person dot address dot city, I guess. Yeah, so now you should be seeing Chennai. That's how it works. So you could retrieve and store all these values. Next thing what we are gonna see is where I wrote it. Okay, went way beyond. Yeah, next we are gonna see loops. In JavaScript, the loops you will be more familiarized with it if you're good at C programming, because that's what I felt when I first learned JavaScript. It looked too similar. For instance, if I'm going to use if statement, usually if will execute if the value in between is true. Yeah, so this is going to happen because it is true. But if it does not happen, condition is not true. So it won't happen if it is not true. We can capture that in else. So say for instance, if the condition failed, so it will get into the else block. So this is how things work. It's not like you're just supposed to use one condition. Of course you could use multiple conditions. So first, let's say we have b is equal to 2. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to check for b is equal to 2, and if b is 2, I'll console log the value is true. Yeah, now you should be getting it. But say for instance this is a string instead of a number, still it will execute because there are only 2 equal signs. But if there are 3 equal signs, it will even check for the type, so then it won't execute. The reason is 3 equal signs means type check also occurs. Yeah, so you have to be careful with what you choose here. Next, let's see how checking for multiple conditions work. Say for instance, I'm initially checking whether b is equal to 2 and okay, so and do we have an, yeah, c is equal to 3. So I'm checking if c is equal to 3. So if both the conditions are true, yeah, of course it should execute. But what if we have something like 3 equal signs here? Of course it will fail because string 2 is not equal to 2. But of course the c still remains 3. But since we used AND operator, it fails because AND expects both to be true. So that's the reason we are getting into the else block. There is something called OR. So here it just expects any of these properties to be true. Since one is already true, we are sure that what will happen. So that's more with the if statement. The next thing we are gonna see is for. So in for, usually what happens is you assign a initial value and you have a condition in between. Say for instance, I is less than 10 and you increment the value so that it will happen over and over again. So this is how for loop works. What I'll do is I'll just console log the I. So now once you run it, okay, just typo again. So once you run it, you will see all these values. And since here is 10, we are just seeing 9. The reason is because the condition failed once it reached 10 because 10 is not less than 10. 10 is less than or equal to 10. So now it should print 10 as well. You could have multiple values here. Say for instance, if you're gonna throw 10,000, of course it is going to run all the way up to 10,000. So we can also check the time of execution. There is something like console.time and you give some values like check. I'll just copy it and paste it at the end of block. Now you should be seeing an execution time. It states that it took around 3 seconds. So this will be helpful when you are debugging for performance issues. Yeah, that is that. Next thing what we are going to do is we can see some ES6 features as well. We have multiple arrays here. What I'm trying to do is I'll take that person and taking the hobbies and I'm using something called for each. So here what I'll do is I'll take individual item and I'll console log it. So now what you will be seeing is you will see chess and drawing. So what happened here is this is actually an ES6 function. So we are taking the array and looping through its items, and for each iteration we are just console logging the item. So this is what happens here. Since we got into ES6 features, I'll just show what a function actually is. So we'll write a function called add me, and it will have two values, a comma b. Here what we'll do is we'll return a plus b. So it's as simple as that. So in order to execute that, we'll write console log add me, and we'll pass in like 1 comma 2. You know what the result is? It is going to be 3. Also you can pass something like string. So what it will do is it will concatenate, so it will just print out 1 2. So it's completely up to you. So how is it converted into ES6? This is ES5 actually. So in order to convert it to ES6, we'll just make a copy out of it. Yeah, ES6. So it is too simple. Actually all you have to do is take this out, mark it as a variable, and use equal sign and put a fat arrow symbol here. That's it. You're running ES6. So this is how ES6 looks. If you're gonna save, it is going to print the exact same value. It is coming from here and not here. So ES6, I'll say it is just a syntactic sugar. It will make the coding look a bit neat. And ES7, ES8, all those things are going to be just enhances for your existing JavaScript skills. So that's what I'll say. The next part what we'll do is, yeah, we have covered ES5 to ES6 as well. I think the only thing that is left is object array. So we already saw object. Now we will see a bit of array manipulation. So array is too simple, I guess. Array, usually you will be using few values like say for instance we have colors array, and we have different colors, red, blue, green, white. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so it has actually 4 values. Say for instance I'm going to print the arrays. You should be seeing it here. It has a method called prototype, and it has couple of methods. So all these methods are built into array property. We can use any of these methods. For instance, I'll just do colors dot length. So what it will do is it will just print the number of elements in that array. Likewise, we can even push some stuff into array. For instance, we want to have a 5th element. Actually we are having 4 elements, so in order to have a 5th element, we mark the 4th element of the array to be black. Yeah, so now you should be having another item added to the array, but stating number is really not possible at all times. So instead of that, what we could do is we can use a method called push, and you could right away push something into it. I'm pushing this color into it, and you should be seeing it right away. Just like similar to push, there is a method called pop. So if you just enter pop, what will happen is the last item gets deleted. And also there is something like shift. So this method usually what it does is it removes the first item. So now you will see that red is gone. Also there is something called unshift. So it adds a new element to the top. We'll add black color to it. Now you should be seeing an element at the beginning of array. Yeah, these are the common manipulation methods. Also feel free to try all these methods yourself. Just take a look into it. It should be pretty easy when you try it by yourself. Usually this map, filter, reduce, all these stuff are ES6. So we'll be having a separate video to learn the fundamentals of array manipulation using map, filter, reduce, and sort. So those will be a bit of an interesting topic. For now, what we'll do is we'll use something called splice. We'll take in two arguments. Okay, where is the console? Yeah. So all you have to do is given a number, I'm going to remove two values. Yeah, you could see that two values are removed. And also there is something called index of. So just to show a demo from this last example, what we'll do is I'll try to do a proto method from here. So as you see that there is index of method, what we can do is use that to find the exact placement of that value. Of course we know there is something called black, so we'll try to search for it, and it will point out to be actually we need to console log it. It will show that it is in the 0th position. Of course the black is in 0th position. Likewise, feel free to try all these methods. So that's more with the arrays, I guess. Next we'll get into what we have in our list. Okay, class. So class is an interesting topic actually. Usually class will be something that is used to replicate the task that is done over and over again. For instance, if you are going to create a new user, you can have all the methods and the user properties within a class. So what I'll do is I'll create a new class. Okay, so class is something that starts with the word class, and let's say you're gonna have some class for every new user. So we'll have something like user, and it usually has something called constructor, and it will take in some arguments. A user is going to have, of course, a username, and maybe he'll have some password, a email ID. Yeah, those are the important properties. Now a class will instantiate all these values to itself. So we need to specify that this dot username is equal to username, this dot password is equal to password, this dot email ID is equal to email ID. So now we have a working user class. Also we could have a couple of methods, like say for instance we could have login method, and the login method could take in two parameters, like maybe username, password. So we'll have some logic to check if the username is matching this username. So it will be like an if statement. If this dot username is equal to username, and this dot password is equal to password. So if both the conditions are true, we can return maybe login successful. Yeah, also we can have as much of functions we require. Yeah, that's it. Now we'll create a new user. Let Suren is equal to new user, and it will take in 3 parameters. So I'll take Suren, and password, so it is not going to be secret now. We'll just keep it as 1 2 3 4 5 6, and we'll have something like email id suren@gmail.com. Yeah, now here we have instantiated a new user. So what we'll try to do now is, if I'm going to console log Suren dot since we have a property here, we could use that login method. So it takes in 2 parameters. So say for instance I'm trying to log in with my username. I just have to pass it, and I'm giving it my password 1 2 3 4 5. So what happens now is login is successful. So if it is not a match, what will return is username or password wrong. Okay, so say for instance I'm giving a different password, so it is going to throw an error. So this is how you reuse the properties. I guess that's a lot to take in. Next, what we have on our list is DOM manipulation. So this is the least important part. The reason I'm saying that it is least important is in earlier days what people were doing, they kept on using methods like document.getElementBy id, getElementBy name. They gave name, id, and they got all those values. They sent it to backend. So it was a huge process. It was a lot of typing. So nowadays there are front-end frameworks like React, Angular. It comes with preloaded data binding, Spring interpolation, and even what do you say, like two-way data binding. So what happens is once the user types here, it immediately gets stored here. So it is as elegant as that. So there is no need for DOM manipulation anymore, because frameworks took a pretty good decent job on that, making it too easy for us. Still it is good to know all those stuff, so we'll just see a little example. Say I'm going to add a event listener to this submit button. So first I'll see where it is. Yeah, found it. What I'll try to do is I can simply write a click event here, but also maybe I could show you DOM manipulation by targeting this name. So what I need to do is I'll create a variable with the document getElementBy name, and the name is submit, I guess. So it is going to return node values. I'm going to take the 0th value. So let's just console log and see if we got the button right. Yeah, of course we have the button. So it's now simple to add a event listener to it. Say for instance we are having button. All we need to do is add event listener, and what type it is. We are listening for click event, and what we are supposed to do when a click happens. We'll execute some function, execute me. So we need to write the function down. Function execute me. We'll console log I was clicked. Yeah, so it's as simple as that. Now if I'm going to click it, of course it is going to reload the page. The reason is because it is inside a form. So what happens is the form tries to submit. So what we'll do is, for time being, we'll take it out. Now we'll try to click it. Once you click submit now, you will be seeing I was clicked. So this is how DOM manipulation works. uh, I think you don't need to concern yourself much with DOM manipulation, because we have easier methods. Even jQuery was created so that people could easily manipulate DOM, but even that became outdated after all those giant frameworks. So it's completely up to you. Mm, well, guys, that's more of it, I guess. What you saw right now is a basic JavaScript usage. What I would suggest you guys to do is, do your own research. Try to create something like basic calculator application, or anything that could be done with the help of JavaScript. So that take some exercise for yourself. As I always say, self motivation is most required in web development. So try to implement all those that you read right now, and see if you could make things into a better way, or try to implement it into a actual project. Even feel free to send it to me. I'll take a look into it. I'll reply to you guys. And yeah, of course, this is a long video, and this is a complete theory, I guess. You didn't even get to see something cool, or anything that animates. It was a vague theory. So if you are listening all the way up to now, well, congrats to you guys. You really are motivated towards learning. So this should help you towards your goal, and will help you land a decent job. So all the best for that. uh, and things are not going to get any easier. So why I'm saying this is because upcoming videos we are going to get into a bit of advanced stuff. It is going to be Node.js, npm, webpack. Yeah, even it is going to be coding part. So yeah, of course, brace yourself, be ready for that. See you in next video, guys. Thank you.